Welcome to Upgraded You podcast, and today guest is Charlie Weingroff, Dr. Charlie Weingroff. So thank you for joining.
What's up, man? How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm actually. It's funny that I follow you for years. I have all your products. We've been many times in the same communities. We have very much many friends, common friends.
Yeah,
We never met.
yeah. It's not the only time this happens. Where obviously with the way the internet is and the relationships can become very strong, even though you never met the person. You met
Yeah.
them, never met them in person. Yeah.
So still we have this COVID thing in Europe and the same thing in the States, right? So how does it change your life?
It's well, in I'll tell you, there's probably a whole hour to talk about.
Wow.
I think what's interesting for, especially in the beginning for us, which was a little bit after you guys, in the spring for us, probably started, end of March, beginning of April. And during that period of time is the period of time where I don't typically travel very much. So it's like the end of NFL to the beginning of the summer is usually I don't have too much travel. So, and then my wife and I, the type of things that we do, and also remember in the spring the weather here is not so good in the Northeast in America, so that's also part of it. It did not have this like major pinch. Like it wasn't so many things. Things were inconvenient where you can't get food or the toilet paper. And I don't mean you could never get it, but it wasn't so simple because here we have many delivery services. And when people wanted to stay in their home instead of go to the store to buy things, they were just deluged. So yeah, but the other thing that during that period, first of all, there's always going to be if you give me 2 or 3 months and financial issues are in a good place, I could use 2 to 3 months to relax at any point.
Now that's the question I wanted to ask because you are having a lot of lectures. You've been invited to a lot
Yeah.
of places. I've seen you, all your products I have. So I've seen you so many times. So for me, it's hard to decide if you are introverted or extroverted. But my guess would be you are introverted who is actually got used to talk in front of people because you like to talk about things, what you are talking about.
I think I think you're correct, Peter. I don't think of myself as one or the other, but I'm not offended if anybody
Mhm.
says whatever. There will I think it's very fair. I will definitely appear introverted if I'm not interested in communicating with the people around me. And
Mhm.
usually let's say if that puts us in a professional setting, if I know I'm like this conversation is just like there's no depth, meaning the only one thing we could talk about, and that's going to be about training.
Mhm.
And if I know that the training is whatever, good, bad, indifferent, we're going to disagree, then I don't even want to talk. I don't want to deal with that. And then I'm going to come off as shy or I'll come off as an asshole or whatever
Mhm.
because I don't even want to engage. Because in
Sure.
my mind, it's like how could I be doing anything wrong if I'm not doing anything at all?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
but then the other people get upset because they do want engagement, but I don't want to do it. And
Mhm.
then from an extrovert, if I'm comfortable, you know, this is I mean I study stand-up comedy a lot. Maybe sometimes people think I'm funny. I don't know. But
I
again,
didn't know that. Okay.
yeah, but that may not even be extrovert or not. So I don't know. I think I try to work very hard to put myself in situations where it doesn't it doesn't make me upset. So if I don't engage, then I cannot be upset.
Sure. But do you feel you are on a mission because you have all these products, which again I
Yeah.
love them. So do you feel that you have to share with these things with the world?
No, I don't feel I'm compelled to do it.
Mhm.
I love doing it, and I think the hopefully the perception of quality show. Like I don't think anybody can put out things that are really good if they don't really love doing it. Like if they're just going through the motions,
Mhm.
it's not gonna have a lot of legs to it. I've been pretty consistent with from now what is it 11 years of really, being very front and center, as I call it a thought leader. That doesn't even mean my thoughts are good, but I'm a thought leader. So I don't feel compelled to do it, but number one, I love doing it. And number two is something that sometimes people are very uncomfortable talking about it. I financially is a great job, and it allows me to have a lifestyle outside of work, where, like I'm saying before, with the pandemic, of course my revenue was almost zero, during this period of time. But if you work hard and you do well, you're able to absorb the rainy day, or maybe even enjoy it, because for my wife and I, like, I needed that time. That time was, and now I'm like, okay, now I understand why people tell me I do too much of this, or I understand what life would be like, if I can get to this next phase of my life. And I really enjoyed it. It's like you could wake up whenever you want. You go to the gym, because as a physical therapist, I was able to go in the gym. So now no one's in the gym. So I clean it, whatever we use, but there's no public. So I get to go, I get to eat whatever, I take a nap. This is like college again, like where I can do whatever. So from that regard, it also gave me a period of time that I don't typically have to very much dial in training and diet, where I'm probably the lowest body fat I have been in my adult life. So there was other good things. Something I have not talked about, I might as well do it here because it makes sense. I'm going to remember this for nothing that we're talking about. For many people know I travel. It's a lot. Some people drive to work, some people fly to work. So that's what I do. And I was always very, very scared that I would be somewhere when something would happen to my dog, where, like, okay, it's one thing you can drive home for 2 hours or something, and you can say goodbye. But if you're in China, or even if you're in the West Coast in the night, you can't get home till the next day. And
Sure.
I always thought about this, and I will never forget that I was able to be there with him the whole time. I never would have been able to have the odds in my favor for when he had to move on. So that was, we always try to talk about, how do you make lemonade out of lemons, or how do you find the silver lining in the dark cloud? For me, when I was able to carry him, and I was able to bring him into the vet and be able to be there, that never would have happened, or it could have happened, but it would have been, 2 out of 7 days. Like now my travel is, I'm literally home 2.5 days out of the week. So that was something. And then also because I choose to spend my recreation dollars on education, like that's my reading. Now I'll also, of course, read fiction and other things, but the list of online courses that I wanted to take, and I just never either had the time or the focus to do it. Now I had all this time, and I think my talk for next summer, if we're able to travel and do the Perform Better seminar, is going to be what I did last summer. So I was able to study a lot of and read much more than I was usually reading, and do some of these online courses. And I don't care about the exam or to get the letters or anymore, but just to start to take the time. Those were all some very, very positive things that, and then that ran into maybe the middle of the summer, middle of June, late June. And then that's when the NFL started. Obviously the Olympics was canceled, so we didn't do that. And then, I have several players in the NFL that I work with privately. And now I'm everything is totally normal because I don't do that much. Right. And a lot of the things that are, valuable to my wife and I, they're open. but the fact that I was a physical therapist, I was always able to be in the facilities that were closed to the public because I would be considered essential. Now, if somebody were to argue that the performance physical therapy or the things that I was doing was not essential, I'm like, this is the law. So I was able to keep up a little bit. And yeah, so now, you know, I don't know. It's hard to project. It's hard to understand. It's like fighting a ghost. You know, I still get a little frustrated because I fly every week. I get tested. I do everything. I feel like I'm doing everything right. And if I do take a risk, like I'm being adult about it. Like I went to Disney one day. I would have just left if I didn't feel safe. I would have left because the type of people I'm working with, I could screw up a $10 billion business, you know, based on my choice. But I think what's frustrating, I don't know if it's the same because I think the nature of the lockdowns in Europe are legitimate. Like here, it's like, stop it, don't do that. Like people do what they want. I feel like if I'm doing everything right, it could still happen. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want, number one, I don't want to expose other people, but I also don't want to get shut down for 2 weeks. You know, I'm a machine. I have to work. So you try to do everything right, and you know, whatever inconveniences you deal with, for me, they're not overwhelming. I'm able to fly. I fly on Delta, so you never sit next to somebody. So unless me and you made the tickets together, they will never put us to sit together. So that's better than nothing. You know, I'm sure it doesn't measure. It's
almost
6
like
feet.
first class.
Yeah, so like in first class, there's never somebody next to you. In the back, there's never anybody in the middle. And then you know, when I go places, I stay right where I'm staying. So if I'm at the player's house, I don't leave the player's house. Usually, I would take one of the cars and go around when I have free time. So and then when I'm home, go to the gym and go home. I don't do anything else. And because we don't go out to dinner, we cook food. We went out to dinner the first time last week, and again, we would have just left. We were able to eat outside. They put the heat lamps on. It's fine. If I something like tanning, you would think, well, that's high risk. But it's the places that are high risk. They have the most standards for cleanliness. So you know, like when they say go into room 10, like it's got the piece of tape on it. So you know it was cleaned and nobody went in. So that's about it. I don't really do too much. New York City, get out, put the mask on, go to the office, go home. I just know, and you don't deal with people.
Now you mentioned online courses that you had time to catch up on books and online courses. How do you pick online courses? So what are you looking for when you say like, well, that's the one I'm buying?
Yeah. So I just look at the different environments that I'm working in currently. So there's not so much current, but over the time, like where did I fail, or where did I wish I had more substance, and sometimes it cycles. It's like, you if you run in, like as a therapist, if you run into 3 or 4 cervical patients that struggle, then that's telling me I should, this is what I should do. And then maybe it's not till 4 years later that you have this urge to focus on cervical. So there's so much that I still want to know, and some things get thrown out, some things get better. And early on, one of the focuses, I've enjoyed just watching other people choose the rehab. I call it, like if I'm in China, I call it the rehab exercises, like mobility and motor control. So these are not fitness exercises. These are, you do the manual therapy, these are the exercises you give them next. And maybe I just got bored, I don't know. But I start to get into a lot of that stuff, some of the new things that models that I would have followed for a long time, they come out with something new, so I'll get it before it goes live, and you start and you just start to use them. And one of the other cool things that I have been able to experience during the lockdown is, because as a physical therapist, I didn't have to get shut down. a lot of people were using me for training purposes, not so much therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember when I have had in person like 4 months with somebody, 2-3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
So because what I would do, I would take my wife's clients because she would have been locked down, like she would not be able to work.
Sure.
As a therapist, I could work, and we call it injury prevention or cardiovascular health, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very normal for a physical therapist to do this, but of course it looks like training anyway, whatever. um, it was so able to actually use the exercises. But I haven't done so much manual therapy because it's if I don't have a lot of therapy patients. So then once things started to open up, then we got into that, and then where I'm really put most of my fitness focus is with Canada basketball, and my opportunity to have the most impact is hold on a second. Here we go. Okay, I guess I can't block out the phone call. I don't know.
No problem.
I'm sorry. I did a speed and agility course, not
Mm-hmm.
so much for the purpose of I need my player to run faster from here to there, but to put these into the warm up, because that's the most amount of time that I have to put some things in and get
Mm-hmm.
them exposed. So it's really more like technique,
Mm-hmm.
which if you do it with short rest periods, you have a good warm up, and maybe you can get a little bit of technical training for basketball players that run and jump and move sideways all the time. So yeah, lots of a lot more exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe over the last several years, it'll be more manual therapy and scientific concepts. But like, hey, you just show me what you say the exercise does. Show me how to do it, and that's good. Then I'm not going to listen anymore.
Sure. Sure.
Because a lot of times, everybody has a commercial brand, myself included. I think mine is very open source compared to others, where I'll show you how to do everything. And not because I'm an expert, but because everything can work for everybody. Where other commercial models is just this. And if it's over here, they're like, oh, no, we don't do that. What do you mean? It's so that's where, okay, but it doesn't mean because it's in here, it's still valuable. It's still useful. It's still effective. It's just they want it to be effective for everything, and that's not true. So show me how to do it. Tell me why you think it works, and I'm good. Goes next, and then if not, then I'll play on my phone or whatever if it's a live course. And that's the type of that or courses that do not even have an evaluation model. They're like, you should know when you should know when to do it. So here's how you crack somebody's neck, but we're not going to show you an evaluation for it. We're just going to tell you how to do it and the science of why it can be effective. So that way you do your own evaluation. So I think those are the types of things that I found a lot of gravity with during this time.
I know you following FMS and you part of FMS, right? Both the culture and the system. So I get many times this question, and I really wonder how do you answer that, especially because you're working very high level athletes, and many of these sports are highly asymmetric. So how do you deal with those people who are highly asymmetric due to their sport? Let it be, baseball is not so known in Europe.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you work with those people. So where do you draw the line when you say like, well, this asymmetry is a little bit too much for you, my friend?
Well, this is a good question, but I think when you say FMS, Peter, we then have to say functional movement systems instead of functional movement screen,
Sure.
because if you will only use the functional movement screen for this type of answers that you're looking for, I think it can become very confusing, or maybe not even come up with an answer. Now, if you take anybody, forget about the athlete that's driven and maybe even necessary to have these asymmetries, just the regular person who's training, whatever their training age is. We should appreciate that the FMS, you could have symmetrical twos or symmetrical threes. You could have symmetry by this scoring system. and you could be significantly asymmetrical.
So you talk about the buffer zone, right?
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. So when, like for instance, we need to be within 1.5 hand lengths. Well, you could be touching one and be 1.43. That's symmetrical threes, but that's a very significant asymmetry.
Yes.
Now, the assumption in that very narrow context would be is fine, because remember too, the concepts of can joints get in the right positions to absorb adaptive stress, it continues after you're done with whatever your initial evaluation process is. So if you take the symmetrical threes, that should tell you that, okay, I think if we do military press, everything will be okay. We think. But then you're still a coach. And if you see somebody pressing like this, maybe that symmetrical threes was more significant. And then you react as such and you move back or sideways or whatever. Now, that's I think that's a piece that a lot of people don't appreciate or understand, because it's not this rubber stamp of like nothing is ever red light, green light. Again, I'm not offended if someone says, if you have a 1-3 military press is red light, because I understand what they mean. But you're not going to die. Like you're just going to say, I don't think the adaptation process is going to be very efficient, but you can still do it. And if you start to have pain, well, then that was part of the cost that you paid for that. So when you do see things that are either like symmetrical symmetry, a lot of times this isn't a problem. You could have a 2 on the hurdle step, and those two things look dramatically different.
Yes.
But you'll also find that when you have a closer symmetrical 2 with leg raise and other things, you'll find out it doesn't matter. And what we see from a movement appraisal in the screen is not 100% representative of how they're going to do like a step up or how they're going to sprint. It's just giving you a little bit of information, usually very useful and effective information of what you think will happen next. So you put them in the correct place to adapt. Now, when you talk about the athletes, now it is irresponsible to use a movement model that is evaluating can joints get in the right positions for daily activities or general training. That is one thing. That's the FMS. It is irresponsible to use that model to then make the same suggestions on can you get into the proper positions to absorb adaptive stress in the sport of golf or the sport of baseball. So there should always be another screen or movement evaluation that is very special to that sport or specific to that sport. For instance, you could have threes in your shoulders, but that does not tell you that you have enough external rotation to throw a baseball 95 miles an hour. But if you look at the movement screen specific to baseball, you would have that extra layer of information. So, if the sport is the training, meaning powerlifting, Olympic lifting, these are all things. I'm sure the twirly bird, the kettlebell sport, you could do that. It's not my thing, but it's a general skill. Like you can do it that way. All of those things, in my mind, all of the relevant joint positions from those sports and anything you would do for general training within reason is all covered in the FMS. Every joint that you could do. Like sometimes we do podcasts and be like, okay, what about this? I'm like, okay, you need this, 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 and this. Well, they didn't explain it that way when I took the course. I'm like, what do you want me to do? You have the kindergarten version. I can't tell you anything. But when you have sports that can only be the sport, then I think it's very important to consider using a sport specific or a sport special screen that from functional movement systems. You will see this with soccer, baseball. There are some modifications for softball since they throw underhand. Obviously, golf, lacrosse, tennis. And because the rotary sports is where you're going to see where inefficient movement will have a significant impact on durability and performance.
But isn't basic? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
isn't
Cool.
basically and the way I see that many times, especially the screen part of FMS, is we give the opportunity to have the eye of the coach. So this is like as an educational step one. And then as you getting through many screens and you start to see and connecting the dots, you start to see the sport as also a screen. And basically after that, almost anything is a screen.
Sure. That's what we're saying. Mm-hmm. I would just be, I think I agree with what you're saying, but from a message to many, many people, to say it alone, I think it's important to also add that, yes, anything can be a screen. However, you should not do that first. And here, the reason why is two things. So again, I think we should do series of single repetition body weight exposures. I don't want there to be any further load, speed, endurance, complexity of the movement. I want it to be as simple as possible, as univariant as possible, but no less. Because if I want to see, like, can you even do it once in the easiest way possible? But it's not, can you do the complex skill? It's, do you have the components to the complex skill? Because when maybe very often this concept is discussed and like, well, we do the screen in the warm up. I'm like, this is a terrible mistake in my opinion. Number one, the coach picks the warm up, so it's automatically biased. So and secondly, the warm up is meant to do certain things, and the best exercises and vehicles to get the components of a warm up are not the same vehicles to learn, can your joints get in the right positions to absorb adaptive stress? Now, the concept of screening never stops. So you do the FMS, and then you do the warm-up, and if the warm-up looks like poop, then you got to continue to understand why. But my FMS was good. Well, the reason that their warm-up is poop is not because they can't do it from a joint level. They can't do it from a motor level. Or maybe they got too tired because your warm-up was too intense, or maybe something else was in the way. That's why you use something like the FMS first with no load. That way you can, because if I put you, so you're an adult male, you're highly trained, but let's say adult male should be able to deadlift 1.5 times their body weight. I mean, something, again, I don't want to be silly. That's, but if you can't do it, I don't know why, because what if I only put half your body weight and then you did it perfect? Now I know that this is a force component, versus if I just looked at 1.5 times body weight, which any human male should be able to do. If you can't do it, is it because your back hurts? Is it because you have posterior chain extensibility? Is it because you don't know how to deadlift? You never did it before. Is it, you don't know any of these things. So take off the most biggest impact, because what I would suggest is that if you can't even get in the right positions, then nothing else matters. You could be incredibly strong and you will buy yourself some durability. You could be strong, you could be fit, you could be brilliant athlete kinesthetically, but if your elbow only gets to here, there's no human on earth that will teach me how to clean. Like sure. I can't even do it. Like my arms are big, but it's not the reason. God gave me elbows that don't go all the way. And I don't have, significant. So you have to if you really want to try, we can improve elbow flexion. We can improve wrist flexion, but is it worth it? How about I just go like this, or I snatch? Like, it's okay. So But if you just took me right to that move, you'd be trying to coach me to clean for the next 3 years. And I would be hurt. Like my elbows would start to be hurt. So that's where I agree with you that anything can become a screen from a concept, but I hope that no one hears that and thinks they have permission or a recommendation. Nobody needs my permission to do anything. Using the warm up or complex or loaded skills is a terrible, terrible mistake if you don't look at body weight first. That would be my opinion there.
But would you agree that when an athlete is approaching you, like, he's walking to you and you know that we're going to work together today, basically the moment when you see him, it's already, or her, it's already kind of the screen just started, right?
Yeah. You're looking for like the big purple elephant. But also I would probably take the other side more so and say, I don't assume anything. Because just because you walk a certain way or your resting posture is whatever, I care more about when you engage. So because think of the concept of FMS is, can joints get in the right place? Is it even possible? So if someone's walking in some kind of
when
way,
you say it's the right place, I'm sorry, I'm trying to help to the viewers.
Yeah.
How do you define that joint should be in the right place?
You have to decide. So the coach, because if, let's say, you like to coach differently than me, whether it doesn't matter who's right or wrong, you now have this model that can answer your questions. So that's another concept that I talk about, which is called start at the finish. The confusion maybe with the FMS to that end is because they're looking for answers from the FMS but they didn't ask the questions in the beginning. So if I know that I want to do a military press with a very narrow grip, well, that tells me that, that's all I can do. But I have to work very, very hard to do that. So it doesn't mean I shouldn't do it. It just means my FMS has to talk to my final plan. What does perfect look like? If you cannot tell me what perfect looks like, or you can't tell me what my program is going to look like before you do your movement evaluation, well, then I think that's probably where the confusion comes from. If I say, Peter, I'd like to hire you to train me. I would like to train 4 days a week, and I would like to prepare for the NFL Combine. So all that, and now right now, within some definable amount of time, you know what you want me to do. You know the perfect program, but it may not be mine, but you know it because I'm hiring you.
Sure.
Then you do the FMS, and that's how you know, which was what your question was. How do you know what is a good? Well, because you know what good form is. Because if I train with good form, you will be able to help me acquire what I paid you for, which was to perform in the NFL Combine. So I could go to a different coach, and he may interpret the information from the FMS differently because he wants to do different exercises. And as a customer, I'm going to pick the one that I want to do. But you can both use this model of can the joints get in the ideal positions. But you have to tell me what they are. So for instance, if you're going to do kettlebell everyday program, kettlebell swings every day, I think you could do very well. Somebody will look very good naked after a while. Are they going to have big bubbly shoulders? Maybe not, but there's a lot of very good things. And quite frankly, in my opinion, you need an 8 on the FMS, and you will be able to succeed because you're always doing something with relatively vertical tibia. So you don't need squat. You don't need you're never on one foot, so you don't need the step. You don't need the lunge because your feet are always in this same position. You don't need shoulders because you're not really going above your chest. You could argue that you need a push-up. You certainly need the active straight leg raise, and you're never twisting if you're holding the bell here. So you could argue that you can look at what most people would say, oh, that's a very bad score. It's only good or bad when you can be very definitive in what are you screening for. So if the person has no pain, a 1 in the push-up just means they're weak. Okay, well, we'll get strong from the plank or from doing the swing. If they can get on their back and it stays flat, the joint can get into the right position. Why do I say that? Because the spine should be like that at all time of the swing. Now, if they lay on their back and they're a little bit like this in their lumbar, well, then I expect them to be like this in their swing.
Correct.
And I might have an issue with that. So that's where the FMS, you have to know what you care about so that you cannot care if there's a score that is perceived to be low. Because I would say there's no such thing as a good or bad score. There's just information.
Sure.
And it frustrates coaches because they have to think, and they have to think ahead of time rather than just, kind of get these numbers and let the numbers decide the exercises. You should decide.
But isn't that the major problem, as you just mentioned, that, coaches are getting a little bit angry with these things because let's call this movement readiness, if you agree with that. And then, there are also physiological readiness, right? For the training or for the game. And we know that when the readiness is compromised, we have to make different choices probably. So this is when some of the trainers might get confused, like, okay, I have the information, that's awesome, but what to do with the information?
Yeah, well, again, I agree 100%. If someone is not confident enough, or whatever the word is, to be like, this is the program, you should not need the evaluation to determine your best program. You need the evaluation to determine how you need to change your best program. So you train everybody the same way, relatively, but it's like, what are the goals? The exercise.
Surprisingly true that we train. Yeah.
So now the first thing, to me, the most important factor is okay, I believe in these exercises. That's what it is. People don't believe in anything. They just want to be told what to do.
Yes,
you have to believe. So again, if you come to me and you tell me the goals of your training, then I believe I have the best program on earth. There's no one in the world that has better. And I think everyone should think that, because if I don't think my program is the best for you, why the fuck am I doing it? Like, I'm picking the bad program for you? Like, but I cannot assume that just because I think I know the exercises for your goals, I cannot assume that you are set up to succeed in this. So that's where, in my mind, I already have a built-in model of what I would want to do if you could not do certain things from a joint perspective. That's like I'm saying, the clean.
Sure.
So if your elbow is like this, or even worse, like that, but why would I do the clean? Well, if I was going to coach you in this thought process, I would expect you to say lower body explosive power. Okay, this is fair. But the barbell clean of any variation, that can't possibly be the only exercise on earth for lower body explosive power. And this is like, when I teach this, like, you can say whatever you want. You're not wrong. You just have to believe in it. Because if you don't believe in it, then it's going to be like, yeah, shut up. You're not there yet. So so now why is it that you can't do the clean? Well, the person had asymmetrical or ones on the shoulders. So that's how you would look at the elbow. That's how you would get to the elbow. And in me, you're going to find, like, my elbow does not have enough flexion.
Yes.
Like, you can't even put 3 wheels. It won't go. Like, my elbow will start to sear. So what can I do instead? Well, I said before, you can just do a high pull, or even here, like, so this is a high pull or a power pull. And then you can then either work with the therapist, or depending who they are, to work on what they think I need, because it's not fitness anymore. This is rehab. Like, and now you take your A exercise, you turn it into A1, and then you turn it into B. And now if your efficiency is ideal, who knows, 6 weeks, however many later, I can do the clean, because you believe the clean is better.
Mhm.
And that's where that should take away the confusion. The other thing that I think is important, and I know commercially this is not expressed the way I express it, and that's fine. Like it's okay. You can do whatever you want. The FMS is not the law. The FMS is giving you guidance for your risk reward.
Mhm.
So if you have back pain and you want to squat, you are allowed to squat. It's not a red light. You can do whatever you want. I don't think you will enjoy the experience. I don't think you will get strong. I think there's a reasonable chance your back will hurt more.
Mhm.
But you're allowed. And I think people get frustrated when, number one, they don't understand what we're really looking for, number one. Number two, they don't know how to train anybody in the first place. They're looking for the FMS to tell them what exercises they should choose, when I think that's the mistake. You should choose the exercises, and FMS will tell you, is that a great idea? Is that a good idea? Maybe not such a good idea. And then this whole red light, green light business.
So basically what you're saying, and I'm trying to translate to myself, is basically you pick the pattern first. You pick definitely the exercise which you think fits the best to build up that capacity. But sometimes you have to step back and say, well, not now for you at this point. So basically I give you a kind of regression. Where we are targeting the same capacity. So, for example, if you can come up to this position for clean, well, okay, if it's a lower body power, we can still work on your two-handed kettlebell swing. And on the same time, while we are doing that, the other staff member will work on your hand and bring you up to the level where you can actually finally get my favorite exercise, which I think has the most benefit for you. Would that be?
Yes. And I think the most important thing you said, Peter, was what you think has the most important benefit. So you started there. Like you already had this belief that this was what we need to do. So now, how do I double check myself? That's when you run the functional movement screen, and then let that help you best determine the correct starting point. And like for someone like me, this is dumb to work on. Like it's not gonna. I'm not saying it can't physiologically.
So again, the risk reward, the amount of
too much time.
Exactly.
Stupid. And I don't need to do the clean.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and at the same time, I have other qualities that if I do feel like doing it, maybe my shoulder will hurt, but I did what I wanted to do. And that's not wrong. As long it's wrong to deny that is real. Sure. It's wrong to be lazy and think that this model doesn't work when you just were doing it wrong. Like that's wrong. Sure. So because like I don't know if you can see, but I have very bad shoulder mobility.
Yeah.
Now that it's but if you watched me do some overhead work, you would not know that. Sure. Because now there's also some reasons. I'm obviously very wide, so Gray taught me many years ago. It's very hard to balance a tractor trailer on the top of your finger. So, so that being said, because I'm strong enough, I can overcome the stiffness, but that is a different risk reward. I think it was several years ago. I was one of the few people that did the beast, cheat clean, but I pressed it off my knee. So I had no tension through my body. It was only on my knee. And it went up pretty good. And, but in my mind, I have to press the 48 kilo plus all the junk in my shoulder.
Yes. Okay. Got it.
And if you watched me do it, it was strong. It was athletic. I got it into a very good place. I've done the snatch test, I think, in 349. This is a little while ago. I haven't done it a long time. But because if you have these other qualities, you can make it look good, but you will pay. You will, and I, that's. But I think what's important, the FMS is not the decision if you want to pay or not. You decide this.
Sure.
And you shouldn't be frustrated if, like, the FMS is not telling you what to do. Like, well, so and so said Turkish get-ups are a red light if you have ones. I'm like, All right, then don't do it. What do you want me to tell you? I don't know what to do. Yeah, probably because you look bad doing a get up. You're not strong enough to
Mhm.
for that load, you know. So anyway, that's those are things that are very reasonable. And when but I think that it's very hard for a learner to know when they should continue to investigate
Mhm.
or when they should just say, all right, this is not, I'm not getting enough information to help me make a good decision. I don't know. I don't know that answer.
Now, I wanted to ask one more time, one more thing for sure, and that would be about mentors. So, first of all, I know that there are several that you mentioned quite often that you work with, you very much respect, and you learn from them. But I'm pretty sure they learn from you too. So, can you name a few people that probably, for a beginner coach, it would be really good to follow them, read the material to get more
Yeah.
educated on training?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's easy to name their names, and obviously I'll do that. But I think it's important to my definition of a mentor is not just someone that has good things to tell me. Yeah, is someone that is not afraid to tell me bad things.
Hmm. Hmm.
Where they could be able to tell you something that no one else will tell you,
Hmm.
and be okay if you get mad.
Hmm.
That's a real mentor, someone that like a father, that is going to tell you about your mistakes so that you don't make the same mistakes that they did.
Sure.
So I think a lot of times is the names that I talk about that have influenced me from training and rehab. They're all relatively to some degree both, but not like these are the ones that are from a training model.
Hmm.
That to me is it's just very very good strong resources. A mentor, there needs to be many layers to the relationship, not just
Hmm.
training.
Hmm.
And they have to take an interest in you and you in them. And the
So
big thing for
you talk about almost like in a martial arts, like a master student
yeah,
type of relationship, right?
probably closer to that with the inherent spirituality that is involved in martial
Hmm.
arts and
Hmm.
these true teacher and student relationships, where if you take away the martial art, you take away what it see like this one layer, the relationship still exists.
Sure.
Where for because of we were saying before, sometimes it's not so good when you only know people through the internet. It's very hard to have layers.
Hmm.
So then all of a sudden, if you lose the connection of the clinical similarities, you don't like the person anymore.
Hmm.
And then he or she maybe becomes your enemy because you're so conditioned that you need to be part of this group.
Sure.
And if you're not part of this group, you're the enemy.
Mm.
And that's very disappointing. And I think the internet has done that where
Sure.
because you don't have if there's not layers. So, but to go back to your question, if you are a young coach, read everything Mike Boyle has ever written or done, and what's very important from appreciating what Mike Boyle would say is that he has so many repetitions in trying the ideas that he uh, uses, and he just does what he thinks works,
Hmm.
not because he thinks it, but he
Hmm.
thought it first, and then he sees it with the kids, and the different people that he's worked with, and I
Hmm.
feel like that's what I've learned from him. Like dude, like so when people ask, well, can I do this? Like, can I do a Turkish get up if I have a one on shoulders? I'm like, blah 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 blah. But here's the best way to answer that question. I want you to take the next 10 people that have a one on shoulders. Five of them will do get ups as if they were threes, and five of them will not. Tell me what happens, please. And then you'll see, like, the questions, like, you already know the answer. Just do it. And he has done it more than anybody because
Sure.
of his years and the work arrangements that he has. Like, I don't always have that. I don't have an opportunity to try my stuff with literally thousands of people a year like he does. um Great Cook is I Boyle and like, you don't know me. No one knows who I am if not for them. And Gray and Mike are like older brothers to me. You know, we do talk about things that are not training related, which to me is a very important piece. And you know, I think other names that are more clinically, and it's not that I don't have any depth of relationship. Pavel, who you obviously know very well, and I was always so proud that, I'm sure you know, I don't know if everybody knows, when you don't just call Pavel and he'll be like, yeah, I'll come out, let's go to have dinner. That's not his
Yes.
gimmick. But when I would come to LA, I knew how unique and special it was for him to take a few minutes to walk across the street to Pete's Coffee in Santa Monica. That was one of the first times that we spent time one-on-one in person. And you know, and then ironic is also, you know, a very Eastern training approach is a fellow named Val Nasetikin, who is one of the founders of Omega Wave.
Yes.
And of course, there's no secret that if you draw a circle around them, these are all the things that you know, pervade my methodology. But you know, it's and I'm sure, of course, there's others. It's those are no, maybe if I were to say one more, it would be Chris Poirier, who is the general manager of Perform Better here in America, because, you know, sometimes I still feel like I'm the little kid compared to everybody else, but I've been on there now for 10 years, and he gets upset if I say like, yeah, I just got lucky, because there's a whole story. It's all just random. You know, you get an opportunity. I'm like, fine. He's like, no, you're not lucky. Like, you know, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, fine. So in baseball, you know, pinch hitter is when they take a guy out and they put a guy in. And I'm like, all right, fine. I hit a double off the wall, but somebody had to let me pinch hit. And Chris Poirier was one of the first people to let me pinch hit to become, like what you say, like, I love doing what I'm doing. Like when I'm in front of the room, that's my time to be, my biggest regret in my life is I did not try to become a professional wrestler. So my time to be in front of everybody is when I talk about mobility and stability or stupid stuff like this. So
just one remark, just to make you understand that your words has weight, of course. And you mentioned Val Nasetikin, right? So
yeah.
Just about 6 years ago, when I sent you an email like about this Val Nasetikin guy, like, you know, he will be in Helsinki teaching a course. Should I go? And you said yes. And 3 weeks later, I was in Helsinki with Val.
Yeah.
So that's a close circle again, very much.
No, it's I'm glad that, I hope it was positive, because if you take my word for it, yeah, now you'll take my word again. You only get one shot.
I know, and it was amazing. So we're still in contact. Now I know that you very soon have a meeting. So in a couple.
What time is it? Yeah, I have 4 o'clock. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I want to respect your time and your client's time. So I really appreciate it, and I'm pretty sure that if you are interested, we should find another time to have a conversation again, because I personally really enjoyed it. So I thank you very much. I really appreciate your words, and then let's keep in touch.
All right, man. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Bye.